Hi guys, Lenormand time. So this is going to be mid-May to mid of June. So this is actually one of my favorites, if not the favorite. My steady clients just like, do Lenormand cat, please do Lenormand. It kind of like tells you, hey, look left and look right. This is who might be anticipating what can happen. You know, with Lenormand you get lots of things that you kind of like we hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst. And this is sort of like almost telling you kind of like, hey, jump over this, etc., etc. So also really quickly, the school is starting on the 15th. So last call for this, kind of like check my website, cattara.ca, and check kind of like the schooling schedule. The second thing, my speed up promotion is still on, which is awesome. Instead of 3 weeks, you kind of get a reading within a week. And I also upgraded Rush, so instead of 7, you get it in 3 days. And Urgent, which used to be 3 days turnaround, now you get it in 24 hours. So if you kind of like really want to get a reading, this is a really good time, because one thing that I miss in Canada is spring. We kind of transition from winter to the summer. So just a couple of weeks ago we had a snowstorm, and now my air conditioning is working like full force. So hence I'm going to be spending some actually time with myself and with my close ones in the summer. So kind of like try to squeeze in yourself in time. And so I also wished happy birthday and happy belated birthdays to all Tauruses, as well as the birthdays for Geminis, who will be also celebrating during this period. So without much further ado, guys, I also ask you to please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and all the best. Love you. Hi Sagittarians, welcome to your May to mid-June, I guess, Lenormand. So let's see what I see over here. Just to let you know again, this is a general reading. In general reading you might actually only get bits and pieces, so that's why it's good for you to also check your ascendant and check your moon and kind of like assemble them together. But really, when I read it for you, that's completely different energy. So there are two main significators, the gentleman and the lady, and gender neutral because it's a general reading. So either of them can be you, or both of them can be you. One can be you, one can be a partner you are envisioning. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to give you kind of like different storylines that I see over here, and sort of like allow you to kind of like orient yourself around maybe better. So what I see over here right off the bat, it was like that something has been cut off. Maybe some trouble that has been looming with someone probably either came to an end or even became more difficult. Because this kite kind of like has this kind of like interesting energy, right? As you can see it, you know, like when we are kind of like cutting grass, right? And hay, it cuts always one side, right? And this side points to danger. And something that has been happening already, that I see the coffin in the house of the ring. So it almost like tells me, because the ring is here in the house of the mice, it's also something being pulled down. Like this is what we are talking about, the Sinister Seven in Lenormand. Some of you may have even ended the marriage, but there is like this big deal that kind of is maybe jumped new out of it, is maybe the love for the children that I see over here. And this child doesn't have to be literally a child. It can actually also mean a project that maybe have been building for quite a while that is finally coming to fruition. So this kind of like skite, as it is for some of you in the past, and it's coming right next to the letter and to the mountain and to the snake. It was something swerving with activities, and the lilies was the very first card, which does signify some renewal from something in the past. But it could also mean relocation. Have you relocated? Or had intense contacts with somebody, because the stars is in the house of the sky. It tells me more leans, so I'll call it. It really tells me that it was three-party situation over here with a snake in the past, but something really ended in a very harsh way. In a very, very harsh way. Skite is talking about, of course, cutting. And whenever I see it, it talks about really bad words. And like we are having this almost like double down with the letter nearby, right? So this is kind of like slicing stuff in the path, relationship, contracts, even hope, right? Now, if the skite is being pushed toward the fish, as you can just imagine, it will be cutting them off. And I don't know, maybe some of you are really not dating, because I see the tree is in the house of the man. And so some of you, especially men, would be really working on self-help and self-health. There is like something karmic that was coming your way and continues, like you almost like are under some kind of like karmic cloud, right? It could be that you have been dealing with somebody who was very opportunistic, or you have been very opportunistic, right? And it also could be that it was either you or somebody else who was like really kind of like a person with a short and curt demeanor kind of a thing. I also see that this kind of situation, because the mountain here kind of like extends time and it's kind of hard to predict. So this situation could be lasting for quite a while, going to fall of 2017 or even to fall of 2016. You have tried to move forward, but some communication that was very important to you stopped. Because these crossroads are in the house of the book, which is also here. Book is, especially this one in this deck, and it's kind of interesting because this rider, you see this this healing kind of thing has happened in the past. You really, really tried. It kind of like tells me that you are still in love with someone from the past, or somebody from the past was, it's kind of like, I see this like weird timelines from the past. Somebody from the past, from probably a while back in the past, we are talking, came back to you, or somehow certain things happen. Maybe somebody needed to relocate, or you relocated. And the situation started being complicated or maybe crowded. There was like a gossip over here, and things ended, but then they started again, and then they ended again. So it was like something that had layers that has been happening. And it is kind of like soulmate, I guess, that made you kind of like freeze. The mountain is always talking about challenge, and maybe you have gray hair, maybe you're dealing with somebody who has blonde or gray hair. Could be salt and pepper, but also it could be somebody really bold, right? So the mountain is like something that talks about some kind of challenge. It could be a legal challenge. This is why I said the coffin being in the house of the ring and the tower being in the house of the key next to the mountain. Because the snake is here, I'm really thinking it has been a three-party situation, which we see it here, but it looks like everybody was released. Everybody kind of like became single in the situation. It was like supposed to happen that way. Now there is like one of significator that has the mountain on one side, a cross on the other side, the kite and the fox. So look at this cross that we have here. On top of that, the cross is here. This is in the house of the garden. So one significator does really want to get out of the situation, wants to kind of like start moving forward, because look, this was like an obstacle. It was like something that stubbornly persisted, right? And maybe you have been dealing with somebody who just like didn't budge, right, at all. And it was like kind of like cold. Maybe you've been through cold period, and I'm not talking about in the snow. I'm talking that simply it was like one of those situations when you just like felt that if you go out, the brick is going to fall on you and things will just like happen. And you're trying to reactivate Jupiter, your lucky planet, and that's why you have the clover over here, and this is in the house of the fish. It sounds to me, especially with here, that you are really oriented toward your work right now. But at the same time, the work is going to represent problems, because you have the fox over here in the house of the ladies. So there is someone with whom you are dealing with or with whom you're interested in, because you and this lady are kind of like meeting in this fox. You are meeting in the clover and in the bear, but also in the moon and in the whip, which kind of like is interesting. So the moon is a house of basically honor and fame and work. And it is like falling, as I told you, in the house of the mountain. So there is like something that is happening over here that either you feel eroded or you're going into the unknown, something that really is kind of like a feeling that the situation is still revolving. The truth is, like, you're going to get out of the situation. The strongest card in this deck is the Sun, and the Sun is also in this at this time position in the house of the Sun. So this is not double strong; it's like 100 times strong. So the Sun is going to come out. I really feel that you are going through the last phase of digging yourself out of either from the lack of confidence or from the darkness, because look at the moon and the sun is kind of knighting. You might be meeting somebody, and somebody you might be meeting that is at your work. That someone also could be a long distance. And now this is where it gets interesting. Was I was like laying down the cards, I was like, whoa. The lilies was right out of the gate. To me, it always gives me kind of like setting the stage, you know. It's kind of like all this kind of decorations that you see in a theater, and you're wondering, okay, this has to happen because I have to see how the other elements come. So this is falling in the house. Are you working from home, guys, or you are having something on the side? Because the child here, it could mean love for work, love for something, dedication, new commitment at work. That also could mean that as I kind of like saw the relocation here, that maybe you're moving in, your child moved in, something of a sort. But like where it gets even more interesting is that the lady is knighting this house, right? And she's like right next to the ship, which is like next to the gentleman. So okay, to translate it to you, what that tells me is that you might be hooking up with somebody, for one, who has a child and maybe moving in the house where maybe he or she works. That could be one of the interpretations. Second one could be, and this is like where this comes to play. You see, the rider is in the house of the ship, and the ship is in the house of the lilies. So the rider is moving forward. So somebody, as I told you, somebody could have been in your life and it was cut off, or you cut them off, or they cut you off. And that's because it was just getting too hard, too complicated, and it was like maybe a challenge that you did not manage to surmount, which the healing was needed, and hence that showed up, and hence this is show up, and hence the tree here. Now you are in almost like a protective kind of space where, you know, you kind of like have been resolving certain issues. You still have to go through the stage of the moon to get and reach some kind of like higher clarity of the situation, because this is the house of those paths, right, of those crossroads that, like, I mean, you need to kind of like take yourself through it, right? Because like crossroads in the house of the book, you still don't know where this is going to take you. And trust me, nothing that I tell you right now would be able to change it, because you have the cross here, and cross is in the house of the child. So something is really karmic here, or if you have a child, it could be that because of the child, the situation has to happen that way, etc., etc. So, but because the lilies can also talk about partner coming back, and you had the opening with lilies, and lilies is showing up here, and then you had the relocation here, and then you have the ship here. Is it that you have somebody overseas or long distance that might be coming in your life? This is kind of very strong, because this lady is in the house of the cross. There is someone in your life, Sagis, that is really, and I rarely see this in the cards, people really talk to me about twin flames and soulmates, and some people really don't know what they're talking about. But in this case, I do see this here, that this is something that feels like so strong that the ripples have been sent for quite a long time. And the sun will shine again. You will be able to commit yourself again, in spite of all the issues and all the kind of like troubles that you had. The mice here is in the house of the tree, meaning eroding your health, meaning kind of like a lots of things going sideways, which there is like something that probably could resonate with this person, that you had so many issues that maybe you think that cannot be fixed anymore. The whip is the key over here because it's in the paths. It's in the crossroads house, right? Meaning, okay, so where do I go from here? Am I kind of like closing this book once for all, or am I opening it? And I do think that you will be opening it, because the anchor is right here next to the book. So and the anchor is in the house of the snake. So somebody is reappearing twice, and I think it's the same person. For the single ones, you actually may be going through the period where you will meet somebody who is either a foreigner, who is very romantic. You might be meeting this person at work or in a gym. That kind of like will be really, really interesting. Or even on some kind of like one of those, you know, cruises. Not necessarily, like, I mean, package cruise, but like one of those around the city, kind of like daily cruise. So that's going to be really well positioned. I would just say do not push it too hard, even though the sexual attraction, you will be able to cut the tension in the air, because this really, really has, because look at this, the cross with the heart, with the whip, love and karma and attraction is like so, and the sun. This is like very strong trajectory, to a point that I really see that you almost like want to move in with this person. You want a package deal. You immediately want the home, the child, and the ring. It's kind of like we're really, really, really well positioned. So that's what I'm saying. Like usually with a new person that you just meet, you're not going to just like jump immediately to it. In fact, you Sagittarius are such a freedom loving signs. That's not really easy for you, but you need to have some more patience to really work the situation out. So I would say next month you're going to look into it a little bit deeper, but in the meantime, just check your ascendant and check your moon sign, and yeah, you can get your own Lenormand and just like see where it is goes. So my lovely Saggies, I would really like to see who is the snake, who is this love, who is the soulmate. Tell me about it. It's actually really exciting. It's one of the more puzzling kind of like things that I've experienced. That's why I kind of like keep going with this. So yeah, until the next time, please check me out on Facebook and on Instagram, and you know that I love you.